My name's Lorraine Copes, and I'm going to talk to you about what I do. Um, I'm going to start with where I am here and now. And I think the first and foremost and really important point to make is that I do have sort of three occupations by choice and not by necessity. So I'm a procurement specialist. I've worked within the hospitality procurement field for almost 20 years. And my primary aim with procurement strategy is around maximizing profits for businesses as well as building relationships.
Okay.
Secondly, I'm a life coach. So my life purpose is to help people move forward. And I made that official and did a diploma in life coaching fairly recently, which, in a nutshell, I help people to achieve their goals, to achieve their lifelong aspirations, and that's in business, career, or personally as well. And last but not least, I'm the founder of a social enterprise called BAME In Hospitality, which is an organization which focuses on driving education around amplifying voices and absolutely focuses on accelerating racial equality. And now, how I'm going to move forward within this presentation is I'm going to delve a bit more into what I do at BAME In Hospitality a bit later, but I also think it's really important to give context and journey. So I'm going to take you through my career and journey up until this point. So, humble beginnings. My parents are from Jamaica. They came here in the 60s, and they came to a small town in the Midlands called Burton-on-Trent. As with many migrants at that time or immigrants at that time coming to the UK, they came to the UK with hopes and dreams of a better opportunity. And I guess the shock to them upon arrival as British citizens was that they were met with hostility and challenges around adversity and progressing and moving forward. And so, whilst I personally have really happy memories of my childhood, in terms of the challenges that my parents especially endured during that time, not only financially, but also emotionally, it was a really tough time for them. But from a very working class background in Birmingham, and my parents just consistently were very hardworking. And so my takeaway from I suppose, my upbringing and my childhood was resilience shown by my parents during the difficult time that they encountered. And to put it into context, my dad at one point was a musician, and his album cover is a picture of some black Rasta men running down the road being chased by policemen, and it's called "The Enemies Are Coming," and that just gives some real insight into the time that he was living. Diligence, as I said, my parents, neither of them are educated, very working class in terms of backgrounds and roles, but they worked really hard to ensure that me and my brothers had the opportunity to go to uni and pursue our ambitions and dreams. Really key to Jamaican heritage and culture is family. And so relationships is something that really dawned on me really early in life of the importance of, as well as being centered around food and music. Culturally, creativity is really around making the best out of a situation, and outside of the situation that I describe in terms of my parents' journey, they always remain really happy and actually really nice people. And the naivety piece is really just re-emphasizing coming to this country with an expectation and being met by something very different. And then I went on further education, and something to really note, actually, I come from a family, my two brothers are really smart, A grade students. I personally, coming out of college, I achieved like 4 Cs. I had to resit maths at college. And it was less about me not having the intelligence to pass. I just did not master how to take exams. So once I got to college and once I got to university, I U-turned that around because I recognized if I didn't U-turn it, then my potential future would be bleak. And so I went on to university and did a degree in logistics. And my takeaways from that period in my life is definitely perseverance, Because, as I say, when I got my GCSE results, I thought life was over because I literally just scraped the grades to get into college. Um, in terms of logic over passion, I actually, for my A levels, I did psychology, media studies, and computing. Psychology and media being the two passion A levels, and computing being something logical that I studied in hope for a great job at the end of it. And similarly, I went to university and I did a good degree in logistics. And that was purely logic over passion. I had no personal interest in logistics. And actually, throughout the 3 years of study, I was bored to tears. However, I remained forward focused, completed the degree, and that set the path for my career thereafter. And I've said that agility and naivety. I mention naivety again because I personally believe when you come from a working class background, our parents really hammer home the importance of education. And education is absolutely important, but it's not necessarily a pathway to success. And I think that our parents don't arm us with that information. They tell us to get a degree, become, businessman, doctor, lawyer. But in the context of the West and the context of being a person of color, with all the accolades and education in the world, it on its own is not enough. And that's my view. And so I say my main career. I'm not going to go into the ins and outs of every single role that I've held over the past sort of 18 years, but some of the most enjoyable and really kind of career defining moments for me within my career. The first was with Elior Contract Caterer. And at the time, I was 23. And I'm telling you about this not necessarily because of what I achieved within that role, but because of how the role came about. All too often, we're told you look for a job by looking for jobs that are posted. And at that time, at 23, I wrote to the managing director of Elior Contract Caterer, who are a global contract caterer, by the way, and told them who I was, what I do, and what I wanted to do. And they created a job for me. And I think it's important to note because I always say there's more than one way to skin a cat, but there's not only the conventional route of getting a job that you need to think about and pursue. So they created a role for me basically, and interestingly, I took redundancy after 2 years because they were relocating to London. I didn't want to move to London, but then I moved down 10 years later. But that's a whole other story. So that's the first thing. The second thing is working for the Spirit Group, and this was sort of fast forward by about 5 years. I was a purchasing manager at the Spirit Group, which is a pub group, buying food across 700 pubs. And at the time, I joined at the age of about 26 or 27. And my two peers, two other purchasing managers, were maybe 10 years my senior. So I joined the company knowing I was earning slightly less than them. But after 12 months of being there, and because procurement is very tangible and very quantifiable, I can tell you how much money I save at the end of a financial year based on the deals I've done because we track savings as a performance measure. And after 12 months, I outperformed my two peers significantly. And so I put a business case forward for a pay increase. And that pay increase was actually awarded or granted during a time of pay freezes because it was a recession. It was 2007. And the reason why I mention this, because it's important to recognize the value you bring to a business and also be brave enough to ask for what you think you're deserving of. And that I did, and I got that pay increase. Interestingly, a year later, as I mentioned, there were three peers, purchasing managers. The white guy, who was the least qualified of all three of us to be a leader, he was promoted over myself and my friend Sharon. And I decided to leave on that basis because I know my worth and I wasn't willing to stay in a company that would award someone on the basis of him being a white man because he didn't have the skill set, he didn't have the interpersonal skills. And so I went on my way. And that's when I moved to London, actually. The third and final, I'd say, defining moment within my career is working for the Gordon Ramsay Group. I was the procurement director there for almost 3 years, set up a department there, and for the most part, had a great time. And referring back to the point I made about procurement being very quantifiable, and it's really easy for you to demonstrate your value. In year one of being there, my team and I saved £750,000 worth of savings, and it was a bit of a battle to get my bonus. And I felt as though I had to run towards a bonus that I saw my white peers walking towards. So I got my bonus, good to go. Good bonus as well, because procurement, similar to sales, you get bonuses based on savings. Anyway, fast forward to year two, £750,000 delivered annually. So now we're talking about £1.5 million that my team and I have delivered to the bottom line. And it was similar conversations around the bonus, almost as though they didn't want to pay it out. So I handed in my notice and I left. And I mention that again because knowing your worth is super important within your career. And obviously, setting yourself up so that you're in a position where you can make bold and brave moves within your career where you need to is absolutely important. And having a contingency too, which I did. But what I am not prepared to do, and I've never been prepared to do throughout my career, is stay somewhere that I'm not valued or are not willing to pay me my worth. And then actually it was through leaving my role at the Gordon Ramsay Group, I took some time out and I had the time to just reflect and really think about what I wanted to achieve and where I wanted to take my career next in the future. And so to summarize in terms of my career, faced tons of adversity, being a Black woman in a senior role within the hospitality sector, which, similar to many sectors within the UK, are very white and very male, was sometimes challenging, but in a way that I think we sometimes dysfunctionally do. We normalize the challenges and kind of just, for me personally, just ignore them and move forward. I was able to find a career within food and drink, which is what I absolutely love. I was able to tap into a lot of role models that have impacted my career to date. I was able to progress upwards positively, but there was a real lack. Whilst I'd say one of the big benefits of my role is being able to eat and drink out for free, which I love, the job itself, there's always a feeling of lack. It's not something I was passionate about. It's something I enjoyed, and there's a real distinct difference there. So as I said, when I finished with the Gordon Ramsay Group and took some time out, I really started to reassess what I wanted next. And it was at that point that I decided to complete my diploma in life coaching. And life coaching is where I really found my passion. I really believe my purpose in life is to help people move forward. I've been doing that throughout my career, but I just decided to do it in more of an official capacity. And I've been doing life coaching ever since. So I basically work with people of all ages, across all sectors, on personal, business goals, and help them move forward, and help them mostly move forward from a place from being stuck and lacking confidence to feeling empowered and able to move forward towards their life dreams. And I find nothing more fulfilling than watching people realize their potential. So my takeaway from coaching absolutely brings me joy and love. The fact that I can get paid to talk to people is just a true blessing, and I feel fulfilled being a life coach. And I just love helping others, and I especially like helping others who are from either disadvantaged backgrounds or have faced adversity themselves, because I have been really fortunate myself to have a number of amazing role models and people that are able to tell me about the possibilities that I can't actually see. And all too often, we just need someone that's a cheerleader for us, that can give us the advice and insight in areas that we're just unaware of. Now to my calling. So BAME In Hospitality was a network set up at the end of last year, but I set it up as a social enterprise in the summer of this year. And BAME In Hospitality is basically an organisation, as I said, created to drive education. It's about amplifying voices that were previously unheard. It's about building a community, and it's also about accelerating racial equality. And we do that in a number of ways. So we basically work really closely with organisations within the sector, and we support business leaders to help them create more inclusive cultures within their business. And what underpins everything that we do around partnership is around data and insights. So I've been very fortunate to be able to forge some amazing partnerships since we've launched. And one is with a data and analytics company. And the reason why this is super important is because all too often businesses are trying to remedy an issue or solve diversity and inclusion without really understanding how the marginalized communities feel. And whilst our name is BAME In Hospitality, I am under no illusion about the differences between all of the groups that fall within BAME. And so through data and insights, we will be collecting data from 1,000 individuals within the sector. We'll be dissecting that data and using that data with partner organizations only so that they are truly creating inclusive cultures from a point of understanding, as opposed to ticking a box and saying that we've moved from 3% to 10. We also provide training and frameworks to drive inclusive cultures. But as you can imagine, a CEO of a business can set out and say that he wants to create an inclusive business, but you can't mandate inclusion. It's something that you can drive from the top, but actually the people within the organization have to actually live and breathe that. And it's for that reason that our business model is very much like a multi-pronged approach on equality. So learning and development. So we have a mentorship program, which is due to go live this autumn, that will serve Black, Asian, minority ethnic employees within the organizations. And the aim of that is to level the playing field. We also have a number of other initiatives like coaching. We want to be in a position where we can offer counseling, sponsored learning, and basically be in a position where we can work with people across the sector and help them advance forward. Something really important to note about hospitality, which I didn't before, is that almost 18% of employees within hospitality identify as non-white. 18%, which is obviously significantly ahead of the number of non-white population in the UK, which is around 14%. Now, from my perspective, that 17%, their place in hospitality is reserved usually in the back of house as pot washers, kitchen porters, junior head office roles, and very rarely in senior management roles. And so diversity per se in its typical and usual form is not the issue. It's about lack of career progression opportunities and being able to move forward in the same way that their white counterparts have. And last but not least, really important part of what we will deliver as a mission, it's around events, workshops, and training. And I think this is probably going to make the biggest impact across hospitality sector far and wide. And the reason for that is because I feel that, you know, in the same way outside of hospitality, the trade press and the media have a lot to answer for in terms of shaping people's opinions and views. I think press within every single sector is very much the same. And so some people just don't know what they don't know. And I'll give you one example of an event that we're running throughout September. It's called The Colour of Wine, and it basically will have a list of panelists that are all of colour talking about their experience in the wine industry. And also for the last half an hour, they'll be pairing wines with foods of their heritage. And the purpose of the webinar, firstly, it's sponsored by 2 industry players, but secondly, it's actually, whether white or black, we've never seen any black or Asian people in trade publications or visible anywhere within the sector. So we're giving them a platform, and it is simply that. Something that I ensured that I stipulated was that people that register for the event will log their ethnicity, and checking the numbers today, it's currently about 50-50, as in non-white and white, which says to me, which I already knew or expected to be the case, is that not only do Black and Asian people want to see themselves talking about products, absolutely, but there are other ethnicities that are also as interested in hearing diverse voices and from different perspectives. And so this will be targeted business wide, but some of these events that we will run will be paid because they're around training and around education. And obviously that comes at a cost to deliver. So that is basically the framework of what we will deliver as a business. And it has been truly amazing starting this business. It's been a lot of hard work, but being able to connect with individuals that are doing amazing things within the sector that have previously not had a voice, and being able to give them a platform to shine has been wonderful. And second to that, from a personal perspective, I love food, love people, and I'm now able to create images that I wanted to see. And just one final example on that, about a month ago, I posted a picture of one of our members, Mags, who is a sommelier, but he's also a wine educator. And I posted a picture of him holding champagne. And I think we had the highest amount of likes on our Instagram account, because never in my 20 years have I seen an image of a black man holding a bottle of champagne in the sector, which just sounds ridiculous, but it's true.
Wow.
And so what BAME In Hospitality has brought to me is real passion, joy, fulfillment, access to career role models, and being able to share the insights and knowledge from them with everyone. Huge amounts of development. And this is not only development for the community that we serve, but also the sector itself, and being able to help others. Because I've had some really great and frank conversations over the past few weeks with business owners, white business owners, who are genuinely good people, but have done some self-reflecting and recognize that they're part of the problem. And I think as humans, and this is me going into sort of the coaching zone of understanding how people work, very rarely are people comfortable standing up and saying, I've been wrong up until this point and I need help to change. And I respect anyone that is willing to do that. And I've had quite a few that have got in touch and said, you know, we are on a journey. We want help on accelerating that journey, and how can we work with you and how can we support you? And my business, the other thing I will say is, I had a conversation prior to this session with a business owner. I said to him, we do not have sales. We do not have sales within our business, because I am not here to sell the dream to any business as to why they should recognize equality as a central part of the way we live and do business. If you don't get it, then kind of stay over there. And I solely work with businesses that, whether they get it or not, they're willing to have that dialogue and conversation. And actually that creates an amazing community of some people that are in really senior positions and in positions of influence, as well as, again, that marginalized community that hasn't previously had a voice. So being able to interact and liaise with such a fruitful group of people has been amazing today, and really excited about the journey we're about to embark on. And so, last but not least, I've just started to kind of really pull together a list of kind of key takeaways that I would just want to share with you throughout my career, and things for you to really think about as you move forward and throughout yours. And I'll start with: education alone is not enough. I mentioned at the beginning that I think naively my parents thought that we would get education, and that would be the sure pathway to climbing the upper echelons of whatever sectors we decide to move within. And what we know to be the case, and that is either based on your socio-economic background or your ethnicity, education alone is not enough. What is really key is that you build relationship or master relationship building, and you understand in real detail the world of work and how to navigate through it. And relationships for me is the common thread that has ran throughout my career, and even till this point with BAME In Hospitality. Some relationships that I established many years ago are bearing fruit here today, because I've been fairly easy to work with, got on well with individuals, and they know my character, and they know I have integrity. So just education is not enough. You need to really do a number of things to ensure that you move forward throughout your career. I think finding your passion is super important. And if you have found your passion, then great. And if you haven't, there is no rule that says that you only have to have one career throughout your life and career path. You can change your career path. It's very possible with planning and making sure that you can safeguard, your responsibilities and finances. But being able to do something, and BAME in Hospitality is an example, being able to have a job that you would do for free, but also pays you, never feels like work. Accessing career role models is so essential. It's so essential to find people that have done what you are wanting to do, and that you're able to access some of the shortcuts. Some of the best role models that I've had throughout my career have been able to basically give me a shortcut of progressing forward, which otherwise I could have had to figure out myself. So seek them out. And with the internet and with LinkedIn, social media, being able to access pretty much anyone is it's just not off limits anymore. So seek out role models and understand their journey and the steps they took. And whilst doing that, recognize that your journey won't be identical, but there's tons of learnings that you can take from their journey. Mentorship, very similar. Having a mentor at any point in your career is super important. Even for some of the entrepreneurs that I follow personally, they all have mentors, because similar to accessing a career role model, there are always individuals that have been there and done that, and that can shortcut your pain of moving forward by sharing experiences with you. Mentors can be great in a number of ways. I personally have had a mixture of mentors, some of which I don't identify with personally, as in them being white and male, but they have been able to help me and benefit my career. But likewise, I've had mentors that are Black and female that I can look in the mirror and they can advise me about challenges that they've had that I could have potentially encountered, and they can best advise me on that. So mentors are really essential throughout any stage of your career. Find friends that inspire you, and that is on the basis of many of us travel through life, education, and the workplace, and we have sometimes friends that have been in our lives for a very long time that take pride in place. And it's not necessarily around getting rid of your old friends, but if you're not being inspired by the friends that are around you, you definitely need to look at your circle, because I know there's a study, I can't remember exact percentage terms, but you definitely become more like who you surround yourself with on a regular basis. And so I guess it's a really conscious decision for you and conscious conversation for you to have with yourself about who you want to be and where you want to go. Multiple income streams, super important. I think during this time of COVID-19, it has taught us that, especially for those sectors that have been significantly hit by COVID-19, that relying on a singular income can have catastrophic consequences if that income is instantly removed. And so for me personally, working hospitality sector, as you can imagine, hospitality businesses, they're kind of taking the revenue about 50% to what they were prior to COVID-19. I was put on furlough, sort of earning what I was when I was about 27. However, I was thankful for the downtime, but I also had two other ways of earning money aside from that. So I've never throughout this period felt any kind of financial strain. And so it's something really important to really think about for your future. I've said where there's a will, there's a way, because being real that we live in the West where we will face barriers to progress in a way that white people won't face barriers, quite simply. But I really do believe this. We can be consciously aware of the fact that we will face barriers, and your focus must absolutely be on how you bulldoze or jump over those barriers. not the fact that they are there, and it's a showstopper. It never is a showstopper. And I really do believe that positive mindsets can change your life. And yes, the reality that we know we all live in is that it's not an equal society or meritocracy that we live in at the moment, but you can still achieve all of your dreams despite that. Where there's a will, there's a way, as I say. Grow and learn always. Consistently continue to learn and grow. It should never ever stop. You'll grow as a person, and it just has to be the bedrock of who you are as a human being if you really want to advance within your career. Authenticity is a conversation I have with many of my, especially Black and Asian friends, about who they show up at work being. And I really firmly believe that you get the best out of life and the best out of your careers by showing up as your true self. And it's sometimes a difficult conversation to have because so many of us are just focused on advancing our careers. But the right company for you will accept you wholeheartedly as you are. And so if you are ever in a situation at work where you don't feel, firstly, as though you can be yourself, but secondly, that there's anything you can do to influence the environment you're in so that you can feel comfortable, then you should seek another environment to be in or create your own. Knowing your worth, all too often, and this is through my coaching journey as well as personally, I meet individuals day in, day out that don't know their worth. And what I mean by that is within every occupation, if you are working for someone, there is a benchmark salary that you need to make sure you're aware of. Because if you don't know your worth, you'll be underpaid. And if you are being underpaid, you need to learn how to negotiate, quite simply. I think knowing your worth is the pure essence of what I do within procurement. It's all around benchmarking. And I use an example of if you look to your left and your right and you look at your partner, you know what good looks like genuinely. Some of us are fortunate enough to meet a partner very early on and they don't need to benchmark. But for many of us, we've dated around, we've dealt with other guys and girls, and we know what good looks like. And the same applies for everything in your life. If you look at your favorite brand of shoes, how do you know what good looks like? It's because you've bought other brands and you know what's comfortable and what is not, and the price paid. You've got to treat your salary the same way. You absolutely have, because you will absolutely be underpaid. And going back to my point about the digital landscape that we live in, there is nothing that you can't find online. So make sure that you understand what you should be paid and make sure that you demand it. I've mentioned about mastering relationship building. People do business with people at the end of the day, and you can be amazing at your job, but that in itself is not enough. And last but not least, set goals and make a plan. I kind of dip in and out of my learnings throughout different areas of my life, but coaching is all around goal setting. And I've used this statement on many occasions to some of my clients, is that people often spend more time planning their holidays than they do to planning their lives. And in order to really move forward with anything in life, you need to have a clear goal. You need to look at that goal on a regular basis and you need to work towards it. So planning is really essential in terms of you realizing your dreams, whether personally or professionally. And that is it for me.
Amazing.
So thank you for listening, guys.
No problem. Thank you. Before I ask questions, Louisa or Mary, do you guys have any questions? Or if you want to, if you want to or prefer to, please put something in the chat. I think you kind of answered this already, but I guess if you could add to it, it's just around, with everything that's happened in the past couple of months, with COVID, with the racism and the activists and the protests that have been going on, how's that kind of affected your work, what that you do, and what have you kind of done to kind of navigate and pivot during this time?
It affected my work. What I would say is that as a Black woman, what we've seen over this period is not new news to me at all, and it's actually it's heightened the awareness of those around us more than it has. It's been emotionally taxing, I'd say, in many ways for many Black people, because this is something we've been witnessing going on for a very long time. This isn't new. But actually, it has made the part of my business, which is around amplifying voices, even more important. Really important, because I have personally listened to a lot of webinars of individuals telling their stories, and I think it's really important. But I also am real solutions oriented, action oriented, and I'm really keen, even though I'm one person, I've got a small team, we will make a difference. But as many people that are pulling in the right direction is where change is going to come. So for our business personally, I suppose we have upped the ante in terms of the business model, because we started out focusing on mentorship, networking, but actually, I had the conversation with a friend that said, so when these people are mentored and now they're the new MDs and new excellent, where they're going to work, unless they set up their own business, where they're going to work, because we also already know that the environments that they want to thrive within are not necessarily welcoming or inclusive. So I felt a duty to ensure that we included that partnership side of things into the mix.
You know how you spoke, I know that you're like a Black woman in a senior position in hospitality. How often do you see that? Like, how many people have you come across that are like you?
So it's interesting, actually, because prior to setting up BAME In Hospitality, I never did at all. But now I've come across, I say a few. There's been a couple. So managing director at Marco Pierre White's restaurants, Black woman Brandy, CEO of Bellu Water, there's a Black woman Natalie. And so it's almost as though BAME In Hospitality being set up has given me the permission to seek them out and get in contact with them. So I would say that of our network, I would only still say about less than 10% are leaders, like CEOs, managing directors. We've got a lot of chefs, a lot of bar managers, sommeliers, that mid-management level. But anything beyond that, there's a block. A real block.
Yeah. So a question from Mary in the chat is, you briefly mentioned career changes. Could you talk more about that, please? And I guess maybe the question's around, if someone's looking to change their career right now, what advice would you give them?
Yeah, I would say this. I guess at the point of wanting to transition, it takes a lot of work, because what I have no doubt that we all have is outgoings and commitments and bills that we have to pay. And the other thing as well that to really take into account is finding a way of planning, making that change without you taking a huge step back in your lifestyle. You know, if you go on a holiday a year and you enjoy, you know, certain creature comforts that you don't want to have to kind of wave goodbye as a result of change, it really requires you to put the groundwork in your personal time often. And it could be whether through qualification or experience that you're able to build up, and then find ways in which I mean, for me, the ideal will be to do all three, but there will be a point in my life, I think BAME in hospitality and coaching will be the two things of focus, and procurement and supply chain I'll probably leave behind. So I suppose I haven't really answered your question, but what I would say is you've got to have a plan. And if you don't have one, create one and start to explore how you can start to put or dip your toes into the new waters that you want to be in whilst in the current world, so that you can potentially look at ways that you can take that leap.
Right. And I guess another question from me is just around, you know, one of the three sections of your career that you talked about was procurement. And for, I guess, for anyone who doesn't know what that is, what does that actually entail? You know, because there's a lot that goes into it. So
yeah, there is. Yeah. So basically, if you think about a restaurant and they take revenue, top lines of sales, there are operating costs within a business that need to be controlled. And those operating costs include food, drink, energy, crockery, glassware, basically everything you see within the framework of a restaurant. And then I'll give you another example, that if you buy a can of Coke, I don't know how much a can of Coke costs, actually, I don't drink Coke, but say it costs 70 pence for one can. And if you buy it in a multi-pack of 6, it'll cost 50. So you times that by 1 million. And if you think that for the group I work for at the moment, we spend about 15 million pounds on food and beverage. So my team and I, we negotiate all the contracts with the suppliers, sometimes suppliers like Coca-Cola, to food manufacturers, to growers, to farmers, to energy providers and brokers. We basically benchmark costs, we manage supply chains, and we ensure that a business is as profitable as it can be by agreeing best prices, quality, and service.
That's great. And then another one, we talked about mentorship a little bit earlier in your talk, and I guess you mentioned LinkedIn and social media. If somebody's thinking about, finding a mentor right now, what advice would you give them on that as well?
I would say, start with your immediate circle. If you have friends that either work within a field and they have access to individuals that could be a mentor, I think referrals are the most ideal. But if a referral is not possible, then start networking within the field that you're looking for a mentor. Because I do think that LinkedIn, I know a friend that contacted the CEO of a business, said she was looking for a mentor, and he agreed. And she sees him once a month via Zoom. But actually, I do believe, and obviously we're in a weird situation at the moment, that being able to form a personal connection with someone, because rapport is really important, like a networking event, is super important as well. So I would say network to find that person. And if not, use LinkedIn and reach out.
Yeah, and do you also have any advice on so let's say, I've reached out to someone and they've agreed to be my mentor, what that process looks like? Because I think sometimes people fail to kind of plan what that looks like. So how often do you guys want to meet? What do you want to get out of the meeting, etc.?
Yeah, I think the really important thing before you even reach out to a mentor is for you to really have a think about what it is that you want out of the relationship. Because it could be you fast tracking, getting a new job, and you need to see someone every week that will help you with the steps towards that. Or it may be the case of someone supporting you through navigating the kind of work landscape and getting a career, either progression or promotion. And they've done it before. And so that might be a less frequent meeting required. Set your own goals and be clear on what you need. And then once you're clear on that, reach out to the mentor, because ultimately there's no rigid way that mentorship has to work. I've had mentors before that I've seen twice a year. So yeah, it's completely flexible.
Yeah.
I have a random question, but I don't know if you know the answer to it. I don't know if anyone does. It's just kind of a thought that came to mind. You know how we have some chain restaurants sometimes? That might serve a specific cuisine, but the people that own that might not be of that origin. So I don't know. Wagamama's might be English, but it's huh?
Turtle Bay's one.
Yeah, I was thinking of that as well. I don't know who owns it, but I know it's not.
I do.
Okay, so
it's a Sri Lankan guy called Ajit. And he actually started Las Iguanas as well.
That's really interesting. Yeah, okay. My question was, do you know many Black-owned restaurants that serve a cuisine that's not, African or Caribbean?
Interesting. That's a good question. No. I don't know. I don't know a single actually. And all the entrepreneurs, especially that sit within my network, that own restaurants of their native food.
Yeah, I wonder how that would be received, because people have no problem to go to Turtle Bay and eat the food and they think it's nice. I'm not a fan. It's different because authentic food. But it'd be interesting to see I don't know, maybe some Africans opening a Chinese restaurant. Would you try that?
Actually, there is someone that's within my network who has a catering business called Afrasian. So it's a fusion of African and Asian food, because she loves Chinese food, and she's Nigerian origin, and she mixes the two, and the food looks amazing. It's interesting. Write that down. I'll send you the link. But interestingly, a lot of the guys that are chefs within my network that generally are on television, they always voice the frustration that their expectation is only to bring the food of their heritage to the party when they're actually a chef and they can cook anything. Whereas they feel, in contrast, that white chefs, they have free reign to cook whatever they want because they're seen as trained chefs. So that's something that's like an internal challenge that many people have verbalized to me. that is ongoing for Black people in particular.
Yeah, it's crazy because it's like, I think you have like Jamie's Italian, and then you have like, there's a food truck called White Men Can Jerk.
Yes,
Yeah.
I'm just like, yeah, I know. You know, the thing is, I think that Black people would be less annoyed if they had been given the opportunities to really take their cuisines to new heights. The problem is that the sector is not inclusive.
Yeah.
It doesn't allow it's not fairly allowing Black businesses to really flourish.
Yeah.
And I mean, even things like food reviews in newspapers, because when you review a restaurant in the mainstream press, they're inundated with customers because of their reach. Yeah. So Black don't get the opportunity unless they can afford a PR company to even do that. So you're not giving us the opportunity to serve our own food.
Yeah.
You know, serve our own food, really amplify our voices and our cuisines. But actually, you as another person, you're coming in and you're kind of it just doesn't sit comfortably because of the disparity and inequality in the sector at the moment. Quite simply.
I have another question on the back of that. I don't want it to come across negative as well, but Caribbean restaurants, well, mainly they're not even restaurants. I was like, other than like kind of takeaway, you can sometimes sit in. I've been to quite a few, and I've never really experienced great customer service or just service in general. Like sometimes you can try and order from a Jamaican restaurant and they don't have what you want. And we often talk about like, oh, you know, is there some type of training that needs to happen for some of these businesses to like, you know, grow and actually flourish because the food is good, but the service isn't great, and that could kind of like stop them from growing and customers and stuff. So I don't know, what are your thoughts about that, and what is your experience about?
I think you know, my experiences mirror yours. Apart from there's a couple that I think are very good, like Ayana's, which is near Eastland. Where is it? It's off the DLR. You get off the DLR line and you have to walk about 10-15 minutes. But the food's amazing and the service is good. Right, Caribbean food, really good. But for the most part, my experience has been yours. Now, the problem is a lot of restaurant owners, whether Black, white, they open restaurants from a place of passion. With Caribbean restaurant owners in particular, they open on the basis of passion with an intention of serving their community. And they're not necessarily thinking beyond that for the most part.
Yeah.
And so what they bring is their authentic selves, sometimes culturally as well, because, you know, my parents are Jamaican, love going to Jamaica. Sometimes you go into a shop and you'll see their face and you're like, oh my God, they look so miserable. Then you get talking to them and they're so lovely.
Yeah.
But like this position is just to be miserable and vexed, like on the on approach. So I honestly think the businesses that you describe, I don't know if they are going to be the ones that take our cuisine to the next level in the UK. There's a wave of Black, British, or Caribbean or African born that get it as far as service, and they get that their customer base is going to be further and wider than just ourselves. Everyone likes the food.
I haven't seen that.
The ones that you described, I think they are what they are. We'll go for good food and don't expect the service, and they'll continue to service our communities only.
Yeah.
But I mean, I do feel like there's an opportunity for them to get some business training, because even if I know the question is, do they want it? But at the same time, is it available? Is it easily available, or is it available but with barriers? You know, that's the question.
That's fair. And I would say that in answer to your question at the moment, no. But I'm also I've connected with a company called I think the Caribbean Collective, and they are going to be a business specifically to serve the Caribbean community on advancement. So understanding like buying, training. So for those that do want to progress and advance, that there's a support network there for them.
That's good. Louisa has a question. How did you get involved with CIC? When you say CIC, Louisa, what do you mean? Or do you know what she means?
Yeah, well, so Community Interest Company is basically a business created to serve the community, and the community we serve is Black, Asian, minority ethnics within the sector. And so I went through a process and registered the business as you do with a normal limited business. But I'm also a member of like social enterprise networks, which basically helps you with the infrastructure of the business and also access funding as well.
Cool. Cool. I'll ask a few more questions because we've got a little bit of time. So I had a question around just with the lockdown and the times that we've been in. Is there anything that you've learned about yourself during this time that maybe you didn't know before?
I would say, so I'm, admittedly, I'm an extrovert. I love being out, love socializing, but I've really enjoyed this time. Like, and I was isolating alone because my partner was isolating with his son, and at one point he was ill, so I didn't want to go there. So anyway, I was isolating alone, and I had conversations with many, and they were saying how tough it was, and I was sitting there like, I'm fine. Not seriously fine. And that surprised me about myself because I've always seen myself as a person that needs, I mean, don't get me wrong, I was in touch with my friends and family on the phone and Zoom, but I was surprised how little I missed interaction with people. Because even as this lockdown started to ease, I didn't go anywhere. I was at home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. So two more questions before we end. So one is, okay, I know, maybe I say 20. How, if you could speak to your 20-year-old self right now, go back in time and see her and give her one or two pieces of advice, what would it be?
Oh, to follow her passion, for sure, man. Definitely. I mean, I do feel like everything I've done today has been preparation for where I am now, because all the skills I've learned, they've all come together. But I definitely wouldn't have done a degree in logistics. I think I probably would have found my purpose sooner because I would have been studying things that I love. It's a really difficult one because most people I know from working class backgrounds don't necessarily do degrees in things that they love.
Yeah.
Because they recognize the need. Actually, we need a job at the end of this.
Yeah.
Do history or, something that's, and a lot of my middle class friends or friends that have grown up without, middle class with like money in a way that it's never been a concern or it's not even really a factor on choosing their education. They will choose what they love or whatever they want, whatever they're interested in.
Yeah. Good point. I said one more question, but maybe a few more. I had one that I prepared before, and it was just around like if you see any opportunities for the hospitality industry just out of this time that we've had. Is there anything that you see as opportunities for that industry?
I would say that, I mean, what I've said to many, because I've been doing like press and stuff around BAME In Hospitality, but I would say that it's an opportunity to rebuild their business bigger and better than it was before. Because there's many people that have had an awakening about people and the people they serve or not serve. And whilst a lot of hospitality businesses have had to make huge amounts of redundancies, business will return to normal.
Yeah.
And what it returns to normal as, that's where the opportunity lies.
And I guess more for events, do you see an opportunity for technology to kind of play a bigger part? So I think about the current times that we're in and things like robots being able to sign people in so you don't have to physically touch someone or sign in or get a badge, like things like that. Do you see any opportunities for that?
I mean, there probably are, but it's bleak and it will be sad times if that's the case, because so much about hospitality is not about the food alone. It's about the service, it's about the interaction, it's all about all those things. And if you take them away, it leaves a good food in a nice environment, and that's not enough for many people.
Yeah.
Food at home.
Okay, cool. Final question. So it's Friday, you're in your office or at home. What's for lunch and what's on your Spotify playlist?
I like that. So what's for lunch? So listen, as soon as I wake up in the morning, I plan what I'm eating. And so I've got an air fryer.
Okay.
Nice.
So Fridays tend to be fish and chips.
Nice. Okay, nice.
So, oh my God, if you haven't got one, you need one in your life. Being able to have fried chips and fried fish that hasn't got any oil in it at all. And, the greasiness that, to be fair, I love about fish and chips, but still being able to get that really tasty fish and chips. Just remember,
Mike bought one.
You dropped a lot of nuggets about food today.
I'm so hungry.
I love food, and so fish and chips generally on a Friday. Spotify playlist. I've got loads though. It really depends. Yeah, definitely get the air dryer. Amazing. I've recommended it to so many people, but Spotify playlist. I've got a mixed bag at the moment. At the moment, I'm listening to like a love playlist, which is like loads of old school soul. All centered around love. It's where I'm at in life. So
Nice. Well, it's been such an interesting conversation, and I'm glad that we've recorded it as well, so that people who weren't able to come today are able to, listen to it later. So we just want to say thank you, Lorraine, for taking the time to come and speak with us. Thanks to Mary and Louisa for joining us. So the recording will be available after the session. I will send it around to you guys. But no, I hope you all have such a great afternoon/evening, and speak to you guys soon.
thanks for having me, guys.